All right, this is Ting Barrow, and Ting, you're running for state committee?
That's correct. I'm running for the male member, actually, of the Democratic State Committee from the 72nd AD. There's a male and a female, which don't necessarily have to be male and female, I believe, but anyway, they're called that, from every AD in the state. So there's a total of maybe 300 of us in the whole state.
Okay, and what's the main function of the committee?
Well, that's the $64 question, maybe more. The committee has historically not done very much. It, however, has some access to the state position because one of the things the committee does is to allow the governor, the controller, other statewide positions to avoid having to petition the entire state if they can get 25% of the committee to agree. So there's usually a get-together once a year where they say, what would you, can you please let me not petition? And at that point, there's some leverage with them. My goal will be to get a caucus together that denies them that until they agree to some things. That's just one thing that can be done. The committee also can't undertake any business that lawfully comes before it. So my goal is to try and use the committee as a vehicle for implementing some kinds of election reform. I'd like to work for early voting, open primaries, automatic registration when people turn 18, things of that nature. As a part of the Democratic Party, the committee is kind of embedded in how the process works. And that's why I think it can actually be made to do this, or to help with that. I think it'll take people working on the inside, me if I'm elected and other people, and people on the outside as well. It's important to not forget that both sides are important to bring these kind of changes to that.
When you go out to campaign for the position and you run into neighbors, do they hit you with their biggest problems that they want you to fix?
They do. Actually, it's wonderful talking to people out there, especially when I was petitioning for signatures. It's something that we've gotten away from in this country. You don't talk to strangers, right? That's the first thing your mother tells you. Don't talk to
Especially
strangers.
New Yorkers.
Right, but it's actually really important to talk to strangers, and it's even more important, especially with politicians, not that I'm a politician, but to listen to strangers. And that's the whole idea, I think, of the Greeks and their phoros and any out there in their togas talking to each other was a wonderful thing, because you hear a lot of things you wouldn't otherwise hear. You get viewpoints that you might never have thought of, and you might disagree with violently, but nevertheless you listen to them and so forth. So people have a lot of needs, especially up in the 72nd. The median income is very low. There's a dearth of affordable housing. Healthcare is not anything that might be, all of which unfortunately are things this committee can't directly work on, but it's possible that we can influence what the party decides to do. In particular, there's been, for instance, a single-payer health care bill in the state assembly for maybe 20 years now. I don't know the exact amount. It never passes the Senate. But so and again, the committee can't work directly on those things, but I would certainly use any efforts I can bring to bear to bring that about.
What was it that drew you to this position?
Oh, well, nothing directly about the position. I mean, it's one of those positions where you got to pay to be in it. It's not like a sinecure, and it can be a lot of work. But basically, it was Bernie. I went to a number of Bernie rallies. I worked for Bernie a lot over the past year, doing all the things that we do for Bernie and that we love doing for Bernie. But his last town hall meeting, we were all getting ready to do a big Dem exit and say, okay, this is it, Democrats. Heck with you, we're leaving. And then Bernie said, well, wait a minute. There's two sides to this. You might want to stay, some of you, inside and try and reform from within, and others go outside and try and reform from without. And so I said, okay. And so people were saying, well, you should run for the county committee, but it turned out the county committee wasn't available. They're opposite years from the state committee. So the state committee was the only thing available, and I talked to some people who said, yeah, you can do that. And so a whole lot of people in my Bernie group helped do petitioning, and we were out there. We didn't get going until late in the process, unfortunately, but we still got way more than enough signatures. People were very kind about that, and it was a great way to talk to people and meet them.
Do you go out and, when you talk to people, do you promote the fact that you were a Bernie supporter?
Not always directly, because one of the things that Bernie's very polarizing. I mean, some people signed my petition only on the basis that I was a Bernie person. Other people, weren't Bernie people, and I think the important thing is not to be either for Bernie or against Bernie, but for all of us as people working toward something better to try and find the ways we can join together, not the things that separate us. I think far too often, especially on the left, and maybe on the right, I don't know about the right, but on the left, there's been this mentality of, you've got to believe in 100% of the things I believe in, or you're out. I have nothing to do with you. And that's been very self-defeating. We've got to find ways to find the parts of each other that we can work with and work with those things toward common ends. That's important.
Have you met any of the hierarchy in the party during this process?
No, not at all. And I don't expect to. Pretty much those folks are politicians who are there for a job. And okay, people need jobs, but that's a job, but it's not what I want to do. I am working with a good friend of mine, a woman who's been an organizer in the Harlem community for many, many years, who was in the state committee for 12 years. And she's been sort of tutoring me in kind of the ins and outs of at least what happened when she was there. And I have a lot to learn. So if anybody knows anything about the state committee, feel free to get in touch and tell me things about how it works or how it could work.
All right. Well, when is the election?
September 13th. So
Okay.
please turn out. Tell your friends to turn out. Tell your enemies to turn out.
And again, what
Midterms,
district is it?
The 72nd,
Okay.
Marble Hill, Inwood, and Washington Heights on the east side.
Okay. Well, we wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Enjoy.